Welcome to this episode of Better Life Today. You know, today we're talking about a topic that's pretty challenging to me personally and perhaps to many, and that's about death and how we're not alone in it, no matter how it feels. And so today I'm joined by Larry York, a good friend of mine from the Gateway Church. We spoke with your wife not too long ago on Better Life Today. Jeanette was hosting that program. So after you watch this, if you'd like to have some more information on the story that we'll be discussing, please go look at YouTube and you can find that under Better Life Today. But I wanted to visit with you because, you know, we all experience these stories differently. But let's start. I'd like to have you tell me a little bit about yourself, Larry.
Okay, I was raised in Southern California, Simi Valley, on a ranch. Married my childhood sweetheart. We were in high school together. Got married. Went to work for Rocketdyne, which builds the engines for the space shuttles.
Oh, okay.
I worked on stuff that literally went to the moon. Did that for a couple of years, and I decided I wanted to be a truck driver. A friend of mine taught me how to drive, and I drove for approximately 45 years before I retired. A little over 3 million miles.
Now, were those long hauls where you were all over the country?
I did a little bit of everything.
Okay.
I've hauled everything from gasoline to tomatoes. I mean, it's just whatever came about.
Right.
Ended up retired from FedEx Freight after 15 years, and that's where I retired.
All right. So we're going to be talking about an event that happened in the 1980s. Were you a truck driver at that time?
Yes, I was.
You
were. Which is probably kind of important to the story. I was driving for a beef company in San Fernando Valley. We supplied the hamburger for Wendy's. I'm the guy that had the beef. I'm the one, yes. I would make 3 trips a week to San Francisco, and I was the only driver they had. I came back in one afternoon, and my wife was at the yard waiting for me, and it was very, very unusual because she also had a job.
Right.
If something wasn't right, so I backed into the terminal and got out of the truck, and I said, "What's the matter?" I could tell something was wrong. She says, "Our son is in the hospital in UCLA." I said, "What? You got to be, you know."
Yeah. So what you're thinking? Probably an accident.
Well, a little of the backstory. About a month before that, a month and a half, he had just gotten married. We took him to Las Vegas. Him and his wife got married, and he just wasn't feeling right. He just wasn't the same. Normally he's very active, you know, very, very healthy, very active. He was tired. He just wasn't. I just figured it was nerves. He continued to get a little sicker as the time went on. Finally, he got a terrible cough, and my wife took him to our doctor. He did some tests, blood tests and stuff, and it told us that they thought he had pneumonia. Sent him home. The next day, he woke up and couldn't hardly breathe. Chest pains, shortness of breath. My wife took him to the hospital, to the emergency room. They did some tests and called for a helicopter to fly him to UCLA.
Okay.
Yes. So, like I say, my wife met me at work that afternoon. We rushed to UCLA. They called us in a little meeting room, several doctors. They were, I would say, amazed, put it that way. They had never seen a person alive with the blood count that he had at that time. Never. They had to recalibrate all their machines.
So this was probably one of the worst cases they'd
It was,
ever seen.
by far. And he walked into the hospital. They could not believe it. So the first thing they told us, we're a teaching hospital. We don't have time to baby people or patients. I mean, we're here for a purpose. And so they told us at that time, he probably had a 3% chance to live 3 days.
Wow. And how old was he?
18 years old. He was 18 years old. Just gotten married. And yeah. So, I mean, we're immediately in shock. They told us at the time that they didn't have anything available then that would prolong his life, other than very experimental drugs. They had several drugs that they had, but they couldn't use them because as a rule, he had ALL leukemia, which is normally from a young child. It's very rare for a teenager to get it. So the drugs that they had, they didn't know how much a young child could stand. So they needed a borderline. Well, here's a guy that's 18 years old, grown, didn't drink, didn't smoke, other than what he had, is a very healthy person. They were actually thrilled, to be honest with you. They told us that later on. They felt sorry for us, but they were thrilled that they had him.
Because they were
So-
a teaching hospital.
Exactly. And they could use, with our permission, which we granted. I mean, you're going to tell them no. I mean, this is it or nothing.
Right.
So we agreed to the process, which was free to us. Everything was, from there on, was totally on UCLA, on a government grant. So that next day, as I told you, I delivered a hamburger for Wendy's. I had to go to work because I was the only driver they had. And if I didn't go to work, every Wendy's hamburger stand in San Francisco area would be out of hamburger the next day. So I literally had to leave the hospital and go drive to San Francisco.
How do you do that?
It was not easy, believe me. I stopped about halfway up, called the hospital, and they said, it looks to us that you're going to be okay for at least another day. Go ahead and do your thing. I went up, unloaded my truck, and drove back as fast as I could, got back to the hospital. And then at that time, they told us the medicine they give him to lower his blood count, he was literally bleeding from his ears and his eyes. It was terrible to see him. It really was. And they told us if he could stand that he's probably going to be okay for a while if we start our experimental drugs. So they did. He was in the hospital, I believe, the first time about 3, maybe 4 months in UCLA.
And they were expecting initially just days.
Oh yeah. The odds are, like I say, very, very rare. At that time, when you get leukemia, the odds were 80% chance you weren't going to make it.
Right.
That was the standard odds at that time. So they went ahead, started him on his procedures, got him in remission. He went home, back home again. He was practically almost normal after a couple of weeks at home. He was a fantastic mechanic. He could fix almost anything. It was unbelievable what he could fix. I mean, I'd come home from work and there'd be 3 cars in the driveway with their hoods up. He's out there working on all his friends' cars and buddies and everything else. So he was in remission, I think, the first time, probably about 8 months, maybe 9. And then one day it came back, and he started feeling bad again.
And were you feeling, when he was doing better and in remission?
Oh yeah,
were you feeling
we're
like,
always
well,
hopeful.
we beat it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, he was in remission, and he looked normal. His hair started to come back. We bought him a wig so he wouldn't, look so obvious going around town. An 18-year-old kid, bald-headed, that doesn't, kind of unusual. So anyway, like I say, he was practically normal. He went back to work. He worked for a radiator shop. He was doing fine.
How were his spirits?
At that time, very good. Yeah, very, very, very good. And then it came back. So here we go again. So, I mean, the feelings automatically is this going to be it? Is this,
right.
What are they going to tell us this time? They go back in, do some more experimental drugs. Some of it was, they'd tell us to come with him to the hospital because the procedure we're going to give him is going to be pretty vital. It's severe. We don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes they'd give him stuff and he would go into convulsions, just literally shock all over. I mean, just shaking.
And again, they had never seen this before with somebody his age. So everything was
exactly. It was totally experimental. And then other times they'd give him something and they'd say, well, he's going to get violently ill. Take him home. He's going to get violently ill. We'd go halfway home and he'd say, Dad, I want some tacos. I'm like, what? Yeah, you're supposed to be sick. I feel fine. It's just we didn't know. He didn't know. So he's back in remission again. Got him back home for the 3rd time.
okay.
And then it came back again. This is over the holidays.
And how long was he?
Probably 6 or 8 months each time. Yeah. Okay, the last time they got him in remission, they were getting low on experimental drugs. There was only so much that they had. So they asked me if I would do a bone marrow transplant for him. They tested my wife and my daughter. They didn't match. There are 7 things in your blood that have to match for a perfect bone marrow. I had 5 of the 7.
Okay.
I was only the 2nd father to ever do a bone marrow for his own son.
Really? So it's pretty uncommon that
Very
the father
uncommon
matches
and very
well.
expensive at that time. They got a grant for me to do the bone marrow. His doctor was Chinese and asked us if Christmas morning would be okay to do the surgery. He said it's very quiet in the hospital. It's a good time to do it. And I'm sure I would be a wonderful Christmas present if it worked.
Right.
So I checked into the hospital at 5 o'clock in the morning, UCLA, did the bone marrow, which is they literally stick you in your spine 128 times in the size of a dime
Wow.
to extract the marrow. They give it to him through an IV. So I woke up about 11 o'clock in the morning, Christmas morning, after the procedure, asked the nurse if I could go see my son. He said, well, he's clear across the hospital. It's probably, UCLA is a big hospital. You know, it's probably a couple hundred yards at least. He says, do you think you can? I said, well, I'm going to try. It's
Yeah,
Christmas.
how can you not?
I want
Yeah.
to spend Christmas with my son.
Right, right.
So I get up and I start walking down the hall. Well, here comes his doctor coming the other way, looking at me, laughing. He says, where are you going, Larry? I said, I'm going to spend Christmas with my son. He said, I've had patients that's been in bed for 2 days after what you just had. You've been in there 4 hours and you're up walking around. He said, I see where your son gets it at. So we go have Christmas with my son and celebrating, thinking that everything is, you know, it's over with, it's going to be fine. He's going to recuperate. And they wait 6 weeks for the results. It takes about 6 weeks to see what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, it didn't take.
Oh, it didn't take at all.
Did not take. He asked
And
me
what does that look like? What does
marrow?
it mean when it doesn't take?
It has to kill the cells in your bone marrow.
Okay.
It's leukemia comes back, attacks your bones, your blood cells.
Okay.
It didn't take. So he asked me if I would do it again. You have no choice. I mean, yeah, but sure, I'll do it again. We did it again. Another 6 weeks go by. They called us in. They said it didn't take. So what's our options? Well, we don't have any more rabbits in our hat. This is it. I mean, this is it. So what's going to happen? I said, well, we can give him approximately 3 to 4 weeks, and that's it. They asked my son. He was sitting there, and the only thing he said is, Dad, I don't want to die in this hospital. And I'm going, okay.
Yeah.
So the doctors looked at my wife and I, and they said, we know you guys pretty well. I think you can handle this. We'll give you all the medicines you need, all the phone numbers, all the instructions. Take him home.
And how long was it between when he was first diagnosed?
3 years.
It was 3 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 3 years.
So 3 years of treatments and bone marrow transplants and experimental drugs and just kind of up and down.
Under total stress. Yeah, exactly. Like I say, 6 months we were healthy and fine. Everybody was great. 3 more months he's in the hospital. We would literally go see him. Either my wife or myself would go, and it was about an hour drive to UCLA
Right.
when traffic was right. Sometimes it'd take 2.5 hours because UCLA is downtown Beverly Hills. That's where it's at. So, and where we lived was about an hour away.
Right.
So UCLA was fantastic. I mean, I can't say enough about the hospital. They would literally call us at home and ask us what we wanted for dinner that night. And I mean, it was steak and lobster or prime rib or whatever you wanted. They had that particular floor had its own kitchen.
Wow.
And he couldn't eat because he was so sick. So they would feed the families that would come to visit.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to kind of hear what happened next. And I'm very interested to hear how God was with you or how you were feeling, because sometimes there's a lot of silence out there too.
Right.
So folks, stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this.
Better Life Broadcasting is a viewer-supported Christian media ministry that offers streaming programming via apps on various devices. Please visit blbn.org to support Better Life or to get more information. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back. My guest today is Larry York, and we're talking about your son and the experiences that you guys had. He had a diagnosis. It was 1983
Yes.
when he was diagnosed. In 3 years, you were kind of on this roller coaster of, is he
Constantly.
getting better? Is he not? I have to ask, where were you with God during this process?
Most of the time I was angry at him. I couldn't understand why. Here I have a son that never gave us any problem, perfectly healthy, didn't drink, didn't smoke, just gotten married, he's just starting college, doing very well. And then all of a sudden here's practically a death threat against him. I couldn't understand why. I was very angry at God at the time. I really was. It was very hard to justify. And as I say, we brought him home. He lived about 11 days, died at our home. he was laying in his bed, and in the morning my daughter had spent the night there in a room with him. Come in and got me about 6 in the morning and said, "Dad, I'm really tired. I'm going to go lay in my own bed." So I got up, got some coffee, went in his room, sat there, and I noticed his lips were chapped from not drinking or anything.
Was he awake? Was he
No,
aware?
he was sleeping. So,
Okay.
so I got a wet washcloth and I put it on his lips, and he jumped like that, and then that was it. He passed right there in front of me. So at the time, I must admit it was almost a relief.
Was he in a lot of pain at that
No,
point?
there's no pain in leukemia.
Okay.
No
Okay.
pain. But after going through the 3 years of the up and down and back and forth, and him going through it, and his biggest fear through the whole thing was that Cheryl and I would be divorced, would get divorced over it. The divorce rate of something like that is about 70%.
Is it?
And that was his biggest fear. Dying didn't bother him. He was, that's just the way he was. They told him at the hospital that all the drugs that he was on would save lives, down the road. To this day, I'm sure he's probably saving lives. The drugs that he took then are used every day now, so
Right.
very common.
Does that make it easier?
It did after a while. It didn't at first.
Yeah.
Nothing helped at first. It
Right.
was, it was. I remember many, many trips going to San Francisco, having to literally pull over my truck and just sit there and cry. I mean, I couldn't drive anymore. I mean, and get my composure and get back to work and go back and forth. And things that we would do later on, people would ask us about maybe a wedding we went to or something. And see, I never went to that wedding. I said, "Yes, you did. You were there." Totally blank. My
So
wife's
you
the
have
same way.
whole periods of time.
Blocks of time. Yes. Just our mind are just. I guess the Lord does it for you. It's as a relief.
Kind of to protect you.
Exactly. You can only take so much. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And this was not the only thing you were dealing with at that.
No, I lost my mother a few years before that. My wife's parents both died just before that. So we were literally going to funerals. It seemed like every day.
Right.
Our daughter also has chronic asthma. I can remember one day when we went to see our daughter in the hospital, our son in the hospital, and her father in the hospital, all in one day. So yes, there was some trying times for us.
And
for sure.
you're feeling like, I would think, you're feeling like you have to be strong for them.
Yes.
And hold all that in.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem that I personally had was I felt like I failed. I was the only hope he had at one time. They literally said,
Because of the bone marrow.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, this is the only thing we can do to save him. It's all on your shoulders.
What a load.
Yes, I got to admit, it was a strain on me, it really was. And like I say, I got where I was, I loved to sing. I sing and play guitar. I loved to sing. I sang all the time. And it got where I couldn't even stand to listen to music. A song would come on that was one of his favorites or something we listened to all the time. I just had to turn it off. I got where I listened to talk radio. I just went away from music. I didn't sing anymore. I wasn't happy. I had this big burden on my shoulders all the time. I just couldn't get rid of it. And then I remembered one day, the doctors told us that even though we lost him, that he would save children, mainly children because of the age of leukemia he had, that would be alive for many, many years after we lost him. And then I started to realize that maybe it was put here for a reason. Basically, that was his reason to be here. And that helped. The fact that he was the type of kid, if he could have saved one child's life, he would have done it. I mean, that's just the way he was.
Wow.
And that's basically how it came out. And then a little later on, being a truck driver, I was gone all the time. I finally retired. We traveled around for a while. We did some camp hosting. We were in a campsite in Arizona. My neighbor came over and said there's a seminar at the church on Revelation. And Cheryl said, well, I'd like to go to it. She said, well, my husband won't go unless Larry goes. So, yes, dear. So we're going to go to this seminar. So we go to it, and it was about 6 weeks long. Well, about the second week, I started, this guy's pretty good. This is getting interesting. Well, by the third week, I'm saying, come on, Cheryl, we got to go. We're going to be late. So we continued to the entire seminar. And then afterwards, they asked us if anybody in the audience would like to be baptized. Well, Cheryl and I both raised our hands. And they did, I think, about 14 of us. And they did her and I in the same tub together, which was a little bit rare, too.
Yeah.
So that worked out. We were going to the church there in Arizona. Well, we were camp hosting, like I say, and we ended up coming to Oregon. We were on our way to Washington, stopped and visited my aunt, my uncle was very sick at the time. She needed some help with him. She mentioned that the house next door was for rent about 3 times. And finally, I think maybe she's trying to tell me something. So we go look at the house and we say, okay, we'll rent it and we'll stay here for a while, a few months, and try to help you with my uncle. So we did that. Come to find out that our next door neighbor was Seventh-day Adventist. We didn't know that at the time. We joined the church here. And then my wife went to work for the thrift store. And she mentioned that the lady at the thrift store mentioned that her son-in-law needed a bass guitar player. And that's how I got to Gateway. And we've been there approximately 10 years now. I'm also the head deacon there.
Right.
But I think looking back at it, God was with me all the time. I just didn't realize it. It's hard to explain. The pressure that you're going through, and my wife, the both of us, it's very hard to explain that. It's like it was in the background all the time. And I wasn't accepting it because as a truck driver, I was on the road all the time. And Sundays to me was just another day at work. I mean, you don't have time for church. My grandmother who raised me was very religious. I was raised, around her. I mean, she'd do her rosaries every day and was raised Catholic. And I knew God was always there, but it was in the background. It wasn't important at that time.
Right.
After this happened, it became, even after a few years later, until I retired, in fact, I didn't really have that part of my life. And then, as I say, we got baptized, got back into church, and it's just different now. It is totally
And
different.
how I'm interested in, you're kind of brought back into
Normal?
into God,
Yeah.
but through anger, right?
Yes, very
And
much
then
so.
what was that transition like, going from being angry with God to perhaps realizing it wasn't actually his fault?
Well, it went from being angry with me first because I felt like I failed. And then God was relief. It was basically the answer, telling me that it's okay, that you did all you could. He was basically put here for a reason. It was my reason of justifying it in my own self was he was put here for a reason.
Right.
And it was accomplished. And that, in a lot of sense, brought me back around.
Right.
And it's helped me a lot since then, and also my wife.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the praises about this story. And praise God, we have the hope that you will see your son again. And I just picture what is he going to say when he sees that you are still with your wife, that you are still an intact family.
Right.
What a blessing.
And try to tell me that it wasn't my fault that the bone marrow didn't take. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see so many parallels also. One of the things, again, I've shared that I struggle with death. And this story is hard for me because I too lost my niece right before her 12th birthday.
Yeah.
Her name is Cassie, to leukemia. And so it was a much compressed time period, but the ups and downs and the prayers and the wondering why. Why would a child be taken?
Exactly.
It's one of those things I've just had to give to God. And one of the things that has given me relief or hope is knowing that God went through the same thing for us.
Gave
And
his son.
and he did it intentionally, willfully.
Yes.
Gave up his own son. And Jesus Christ also, kind of like your son, was here knowing that there was a set expiration date and being willing to give it up to save other people, just like I feel like your son went through the things. I can hardly imagine living in this space where I'm feeling better, and then all of a sudden, life reels you back in, and you're back at the hospital again.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I come home and he'd tell me he had to go back to the hospital to take my breath away. It was. Yeah, I mean, here we go again.
And his spirit stayed up throughout it, or
Always.
Really?
Always. It was amazing. Yes, always. He, like I say, his biggest worry was us. It was not him. It was us. The fact that we were going to stay together, And I mean, we had a lot of hours to talk to him. We knew the end was going to happen eventually. And we had a lot of time to talk to him, which is, in a lot of ways, pretty fortunate for us, actually. Things about life and you know, struggles and do what you can while you can, because it could be very short.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
So I'm looking back on it now, you know, we've all struggled with different things where, you know, I've had my moments where God is silent or dealing with death. With your experiences, what encouragement could you offer to those who are in that place now?
He's always there, whether you realize it or not. It's always there. It's just you have to open the door to it. I didn't. I closed the door. I slammed the door. Literally had no use for it. I mean, I could not justify the reasoning why this was happening to my son,
Right.
of all people. Why couldn't it be me? I would rather it had been me. And then after it was over with, looking back at it, he was there with me all the time. I shut him out, yes, but he didn't let me go. That was probably a way of me relieving the pressure on myself, was blaming God. It was a relief to me.
And he has big shoulders. He can take
Exactly,
it.
exactly. And after it was over, like I say, I look back on it now, I have a totally different attitude of God now than I had at the time. But I was under an immense amount of pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I know that you have music back in your life. I
Yes.
enjoy
Yes.
listening to you. You play your bass guitar.
Yes.
And God is good.
Yes, it is. It is. It is very good. I've been married 59 years this year, and hope to make a few more. So.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the program. And folks, I want you to remember that God is with you. Sometimes we can't feel it. Sometimes we can't see it. Be encouraged. He is there with you through whatever you're going through. Thank you for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.